What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellow Show. We're going to be continuing our 2024 review, going division by division. Today, we're looking at the NFC North. A lot of fun teams in this division. It was one of the best divisions in football in 2024. And honestly, I think there's an opportunity where every team in this division gets better. And I think this is the premier division where all four teams are going to be having successful 2025. So let's get right into the screen share here. And if you guys haven't checked out the other videos, this is the sixth video of the series. I think I have the West, so the NFC and the AFC West to do that. I'll get out this week yet, but check out some of the other videos. We're basically just looking at all the stats from last year, talking about them, talking about what this team did well, what they did wrong, what could be better, and then what areas are they going to be looking at to make themselves better in 2025, whether that's with the draft or free agency or just growth. So we're starting with the Chicago Bears here, and this is my database for my projection document. And I've been logging the stats all the way back to 2017. The green line is your previous season, 2024. And I usually try to compare, the most recent season with the season before. We don't have a really good comparison. This is Caleb Williams' first year. We have new offensive coordinators. We have Eberflus getting fired midseason. So there's really not a way to compare the season that the Bears had with Fields and the Bears season with Caleb Williams. So let's just kind of look at this. And we'll go kind of Caleb Williams first. Decent rookie season, promising rookie season, 62.46% for completion percentage, 3,500 yards. The yards per attempt was low, 6.3. I'd like to see that closer to 7 next year. But I like that he took care of the football, 20 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. He ran the ball really well, too. No rushing touchdowns, which is a bit of he's going to get rushing touchdowns next year. 489 total yards on 81 carries. He was playing pretty well with a high fantasy rushing floor. Just no touchdowns fell that way. Now, 62.46% completion. It's good for a rookie year. We want to see him make that next step to be 65, 66%, I think. And that's going to help him just get more stats, more touchdowns, more opportunities for the Bears offense as a whole. So I don't really view Caleb Williams' rookie season as a failure. He was kind of set up incorrectly, and everyone kind of raved that this is the best setup for a rookie quarterback of all time with the receivers and the talent on offense. But despite all that talent on offense, the offensive line still couldn't protect him. He was getting hit and sacked a ton, and their defense was still very poor, setting them up in poor spots, and that led to the 5-12 record that you see here. So technically, the Bears regressed as an offense from Justin Fields to Caleb Williams. But again, being a rookie quarterback, there's some leeway there. But overall, I think if you go back and watch some of the big plays that he made, the pocket awareness, there's a lot to like here about Caleb Williams. And I think we're going to see a huge step forward from rookie year to year 2. Overall, he ended up as a quarterback 2 for Superflex leagues in 2024. I think he's still going to be a QB2 for Superflex leagues in 2025. But he's going to be a fringe QB1, whether he's top 10, top 12, top 15, whatever. I like where Caleb Williams can be in 2025. The running game was weird. They let go of Khalil Herbert midway through the season. They only gave him 8 carries, but they went super all in on DeAndre Swift, and they paid Swift good money, 253 carries, 959 yards, 6 rushing touchdowns, and then his receiving workload was nice, 42 catches, 52 targets, and just under 400 yards, but no receiving touchdowns. Now, I personally don't think Swift should be getting this many rushing attempts. He's under 4 yards per carry. There's a lot with the offensive line included in that, but I personally would like to see Swift's rushing attempts come down, keep his targets and his receptions and all that stuff there. That's what he's best at. But I want to see more rushing attempts for another running back. And honestly, Roschon Johnson, we liked his rookie season, but he didn't really perform well as a second-year player. 2.73 yards per carry. He's a goal line kind of guy. But I'm curious if this is one spot where the Bears can look in the free agency period or in the draft and say, hey, we need to upgrade our running back too. Maybe get a 1A, 1B situation going. I think that would be best for the Bears offense. Swift played really well. He had some awesome games, but again, I still think he's kind of below average as a rusher. Still want to get him some carries and for sure targets, but I want someone else with him to carry the load. At receiver, DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Romo Dunze, they stayed healthy pretty much all year, and this was the 3-man rotation that we saw the whole season. DJ Moore was fantastic, 98 catches, 966 yards, and 6 touchdowns. His yards per catch came down massively from the year with Justin Fields, but his receptions looked pretty good, 98 catches. That was, he had 96 the year before. I mean, 1,300 yards the year before, 8 touchdowns. So it's a pretty disappointing season if you're a DJ Moore fan, considering he had 4 more targets in 2024 than he did with Justin Fields. So he did less with Caleb Williams, but you also had more competition for targets this year with Keenan Allen and Rome Odunze in there. So still like DJ Moore. I think he's in for a nice bounce back season. And just year 2 of Caleb Williams. We have a whole new coaching staff to learn, but Ben Johnson, I think, should be up to the task. So we like DJ Moore. He's a wide receiver 2 for fantasy. I don't know if Keenan Allen's coming back to the Bears. I would kind of be surprised if he did. He'll probably be able to get to choose where he goes and maybe go for, let's face it, the Bears aren't winning the Super Bowl next year. I think Keenan Allen probably looking for a team that can help him win a Super Bowl. Keenan Allen was still good, though. 70 catches, 744 yards, and a team-leading 7 touchdowns. Up there in age, but he's still a guy that can get open and command a bunch of targets. We'll see where he ends up playing in 2025. And then Rome Odunze here. He finishes with 101 targets, 54 catches, 734 yards, and 3 touchdowns. A pretty promising rookie season, but he wasn't a guy that we really cared about for fantasy. He was never a plug and play, just set it and forget it type player. And I just think the nature of this offense, where he was always kind of the third receiver and they would rotate guys out, and he was always kind of the wide receiver 3 that would get left off in 2 wide receiver sets. Not in 2025. I'm expecting Rome Odunze to get a huge leap in opportunities, play snaps, routes, all that good stuff. And he's really good. We liked what we saw from Odunze. He had some bright moments, and I expect him to be the number 2 receiver in this offense. So after those 3, though, Carter, Velus Jones, Colin Johnson, Tyler Scott, we need to upgrade this spot. So wide receiver 3 or 4 is going to be a priority for the Bears in free agency or the NFL draft. And then tight end, man, I still like Cole Kmet. They tried messing around with Gerald Everett the first couple games, but they quickly realized that Kmet is their guy. Kmet finishes with 47 catches, 474 yards, and 4 touchdowns. They did not use Kmet enough. And Kmet had some moments, had some really big games early in the year, but he was just not consistent enough. They did not make him a priority. They really fed into these 3 receivers and Swift. But I personally would like to see more Cole Kmet in 2025 as a part of the offense. Stick with DJ Moore Odunze. Stick with those 2 wide receiver stuff and try and get the tight end more involved. I think that could be the answer for the Bears. So there's a lot to like here, a lot to grow from. And as far as the NFL draft and free agency, I think getting some competition at running back 2 here, a guy that can help lighten DeAndre Swift's load and keep him, Swift should be getting, 10 to 12 carries per game and maybe 3-4 catches. That's kind of his best way, I think, of being used. And we need a running back that can also get 10 touches out of the backfield to keep him fresh. But overall, I think the Bears still have a lot of work to do on the defensive side of the ball. They still have to figure out what they're doing on the offensive line. So that's going to be a priority, I think, for them this offseason. And then maybe just adding a few tertiary weapons. So Chicago on the up and up. 5-12, though, was a disappointment last year. We'll see if they can figure it out in 2025. Moving on to the Detroit Lions. And man, the Lions are a team that everything aligned for them in 2024. They go 15-2. They just dominated the NFL offensively. Jared Goff career season. He goes for 4,600 yards, 37 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 72.36% completion percentage. That's the best he's had with Detroit and probably the best he's had with the Rams, but a 5% increase from 2023 in percentage. And for them to throw 55 less times than they did in 2023, they have more yards, they have more touchdowns, same amount of interceptions. This was peak efficiency for this Lions offense. So it was a phenomenal year. We should be very interested in the Lions offense still, but I do wonder if some of these numbers come down a little bit just because they were just so good. It's going to be hard to maintain that success 2 years in a row. And then the rushing game was better in 2024. A few more rushing attempts, more rushing yards, better wide yards per carry, and they beat their high touchdown total. So just everything. This was a career Dan Campbell offensive season. Ben Johnson's a lot to do with that, as well as the playmakers they have on that side of the ball. But man, for them to run less plays than they did in 2023, more yards, just more wins, more everything in 2024. So it was the perfect storm of, just experience, playmakers, everyone staying healthy. and the Lions really hit their stride. We don't really need to spend much time on this. The Lions are very good. Jared Goff, Jahmyr Gibbs, David Montgomery, Amon-Ra, Jameson Williams, and Sam Laporta. We should be drafting all of these guys in 2025. Now, as far as like reviewing the seasons here, Jahmyr Gibbs is fantastic. Jahmyr Gibbs should be the second or third running back taken off the board. He's a top 10 pick in most fantasy drafts in 2025. His 2024 was fantastic. And it kind of took a David Montgomery injury for Gibbs to be fully unleashed and see what he could do. And I just have to wonder that in 2025, do we see Montgomery get back up to his usage as, early in the season when Gibbs still wasn't quite a top 5 running back most of the year until Montgomery went down. So I'm interested in that dynamic to see what happens. Are they going to continue to give Gibbs the 1A? Because they had been kind of treating Monty as the 1A. So we'll watch for that. But both guys are fantastic and they perform a great duo. Amon-Ra, just another year, 1,200 yards, over 100 catches, 10, 12 touchdowns. But I think the big development here was Jameson Williams. He's the guy that kind of unlocked everything because now you have a guy that can get deep in a hurry. He makes some amazing catches, 58 catches, 91 targets, over 1,000 yards and 7 touchdowns. Like his presence and his ability was able to unlock a lot of things underneath for Amon-Ra, for Laporta, for some of the running backs to catch passes. And it really put a lot of fear into defenses' minds and allowed Goff to kind of just pick people apart. So huge season for Jameson Williams. I view him as a guy that we're going to want as our wide receiver 3 or flex in any format, really. And then we need to figure out who the wide receiver 3 is. They had Tim Patrick, and he looked good in spurts, especially, middle of the season down the stretch. But Khalif Raymond is fine. Allen Robinson, whatever, Isaiah Williams, whatever. But we need to find some competition for wide receiver 3 here. They do run a lot of 3 wide receiver stuff. So I would like them to address that position. I'm seeing a lot of Cooper Kupp rumors to the Lions, which would just be disgusting if that happens. For them to do what they just did last year and then add a talent like Cooper Kupp, I think could be pretty crazy. So we'll watch for that. And then I don't need to talk much about Sam Laporta. He actually had a pretty disappointing year compared to his rookie season. It took him a while to get going in this offense, and I just wonder if Jameson Williams' presence really took away a lot of his opportunities, but he still ends up with 60 catches, over 700 yards, and 7 touchdowns. I think the big question for Detroit is, can they do it again? They got that bad taste in their mouths from getting smoked by the Commanders. They do need to figure out some things on defense. They're going to get some guys back from injury. But if the Lions can play a little bit tighter defense, we know this offense can keep up with anybody, and they can run the ball, they can throw, they can do everything on offense. They just need more, I think, attention on defense. So we'll see what they do in the NFL draft and free agency. The only thing I can think of is getting a spot at number 3 receiver. So either way, the Lions, hell of a season. Moving on to the Green Bay Packers. And the Packers, man, like me being a Packer fan, a lot of people are disappointed in what happened last year, but I have a different perspective. The Packers, in terms, they regressed offensively, but they also won 2 more games in 2024 than they did in 2023. So they played better to win more games. They also had more yards. They had about 320 more yards than they did in 2023. So 2024, we see them lean into Josh Jacobs in the running game. Some of the best running numbers under Matt LaFleur and the Packers here. In fact, LaFleur coaching since 2020 or 2019 with the Packers, this was the most rushing yards with almost 2,500 rushing yards. It was the second highest yards per carry average, and it was the most rushing attempts that we've seen from a Matt LaFleur Packers team, as well as the most rushing touchdowns we've seen in a Matt LaFleur era with 23 rushing touchdowns. So that's why Jordan Love's numbers kind of regressed. Now, Jordan Love still threw 25 touchdowns, and he missed roughly 2.5 games from this. And, he threw 32 the year before. We're going to dial it back to 25, which I think is still fine. But Jordan Love's numbers, his yards per attempt went up. So the deep ball was clicking a little bit more. The yards, just about 3,400 in, 14 and a half games. The passing percentage is the one thing that I need to see improve. He was at 64.25 in 2023. It's down to 63. I've seen stats where the Packers were one of the most drop happy teams in the league. I think 25 or something number of catchable balls were dropped by Jordan Love's receivers, which, I mean, if we add, say we add 25, say we just add 20 of those as completions here and we adjust that up, his percentage goes up to 67%. So There's a lot of other things here. The main takeaway from the 2024 Packers season, though, we don't have a number one receiver, guys. The Packers going into the year, everyone's like, yeah, we are so deep at receiver. We don't need a number one. We got a bunch of guys that can play. But it's very clear watching this team struggle for the whole year that they need a number one receiver. Jaden Reed's a quality receiver, but he's not a guy that can be your ace. Christian Watson's just a deep threat that can do some athletic things. Romeo Doubs is a really nice outside receiver, but he's not a leading receiver. And Dontavian Wicks did well with his opportunities this year, but he dropped a lot of passes and showed still a lot to learn from him as well. And I still like these four guys. Christian Watson, don't know if we're going to see him in 2025. Romeo Doubs has some concussion history now. The biggest thing for the Packers in 2025 offseason is bringing talent at the receiver position, whether that's signing somebody like a Devonta Adams or getting a T. Higgins or something crazy like that. That could be the answer. The most likely answer is the Packers are not going to pay up for a wide receiver. They're going to draft one. And probably not round one, but I think, again, round two, round three, the Packers tend to like taking skill players in those rounds, and that could be someone, or that there could be someone in that range that helps this team. I think they need a bigger bodied outside receiver, someone in the mold of an A.J. Brown, just a big bodied outside receiver, because everything that they have here is nice, but that's one of the tools that they're missing here. So lack of a stud receiver really showed, but again, Josh Jacobs, 301 carries, over 1,300 yards rushing, 15 touchdowns. Jacobs was a beast as a receiver this year. And disappointed when you get to see more Marshawn Lloyd, but Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks both looked really good here. The Packers running back room is fantastic. I think Jacobs, Wilson, Brooks, and Lloyd, I want those four guys all back for 2025 and just see what happens. I think Wilson's a free agent. Maybe Brooks is too, but they need to get those guys back in the room because this Packers running game was really, really good. And now that is kind of the identity of the Packers right now, I expect more attention to be put on that side, and maybe the passing numbers kind of come back to life here. But either way, I mean, Packers can throw the ball deep. They can run the ball. They can do a lot of things, and we just need our guys to catch the ball. So I think despite having Super Bowl aspirations in 2024, we're still a very young team. We're still a ways away, but we made some nice improvements in 2024 that I think we can improve on in 2025. And then at tight end, man, Tucker Kraft has fully emerged and taken over for Luke Musgrave here. 50 catches, 707 yards, 7 touchdowns. Kraft, he's the next kind of George Kittle mold, I think. I think he's going to be a guy that is one of Jordan Love's best receiving weapons for the next handful of years. Love Tucker Kraft. Draft him as a top 10 tight end in 2025. And then Musgrave, man, I think it might be done for him. I think he's just a backup tight end at this point. He's not really a blocking tight end. He's kind of like a Mike Gesicki, the tight end, a guy that's a slot receiver, can make a lot of plays, but you can't really trust him in tight end situations all the time. So overall, like the Packers are going to be looking at offensive line, receiver, and then just investing in that defense. They need corners. They need a few other things over there. So offensively, I think it's just, you got to take a step back and look at it. And hey, year 2 of Jordan Love, the team got more yards. The team got more wins. The team looked good. They need that extra year yet, but they're so young, so much potential. I still think the Packers are on the right trajectory. And then we're going to finish up here with the Minnesota Vikings. And I don't know how to compare this one at all. The Vikings, from Kirk Cousins to Sam Darnold, we see a lot of interesting stuff here. The passing attempts shrank significantly. The fewest passing attempts in the Kevin O'Connell era, down to 548. Passing percentage down a little bit, not too bad. Kirk Cousins has always been a good passer with completion percentage. The yardage is about 4,400, down from 4,700. But the yards per attempt go up. This is the highest in the Kevin O'Connell era, the highest amount of passing touchdowns with 35, the fewest interceptions with 12. And then we get the most rushing attempts in the O'Connell era, as well as the most rushing yards. Need some help in the rushing touchdown department, but I think the efficiency that Sam Darnold shows is very encouraging, and it kind of proves that Kevin O'Connell is a very, very good coach, as well as the offensive coordinator Phillips there. So the Vikings going 14-3, losing Kirk Cousins, gaining, Aaron Jones and Sam Darnold, and a healthy TJ Hawkinson back at some point in 2024. The Vikings have a lot to get excited about. I think We're probably not going to see Sam Darnold suit up for the Vikings in 2025. I would hope to see J.J. McCarthy. And if this is what the offense looked like with kind of like a broken Sam Darnold, he had been bouncing around the league. He had been in Carolina. He had been in San Francisco. Teams had kind of given up on him. And the Vikings took a shot on him. And it paid off massively, man. They had a lot of fun this year. It didn't end the way they wanted to. But if you told the Vikings fans that you're going to go 14-3 back in August, and they'd be like, hell yeah, let's do it. So a fantastic season from Sam Darnold. I think he's going to probably be a Las Vegas Raider, or maybe a Cleveland Brown, maybe a New Orleans Saint. I don't really know where his future holds. So a lot to figure out there with Sam Darnold, but he was fantastic all year. 4,300 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. I would assume that this is the best career year for him, but who knows? We'll see. He's got a lot of money coming his way, and he's going to be one of the top free agents to watch in March. Aaron Jones also played very well. We know Aaron Jones is very good. He just didn't find the end zone enough this year. 5 touchdowns rushing, 2 receiving, but manhandled the ground game just fine. 1,100 yards on 255 attempts. Still caught the ball really well. 51 receptions for 400 yards. And then, honestly, Cam Akers looked pretty good as a backup. I just wonder if we see Cam Akers back with the Vikings next year and kind of earn a little bit more work, because Aaron Jones is not getting any younger. The Vikings do need to think about the future at that position, so I could see them drafting somebody, probably not signing somebody. If anyone, they're going to bring back Cam Akers and maybe add a rookie here. So I like the running game. I think that's going to stay on point. The receivers, man, I don't need to talk much about Justin Jefferson or Jordan Addison. They both played fantastic, led the team in touchdowns. They were the number 1 and number 2 receivers all year long. Take them in 2025. We love those guys. And then Jalen Nailor, man, he kind of held the fort down at wide receiver 3. Highly efficient, 6 touchdowns on just 28 catches, 414 yards. I think he's going to continue to be the number 3 receiver, but I would like to see some competition added here. Trent Sherfield, Brendan Powell, whatever. Like, we should get somebody, just draft another guy and see if you can improve Jalen Nailor. I think that would be helpful, because this is a heavy 3 wide receiver set team. And then Hawkinson, man, didn't catch a touchdown, but I'm happy with his, for him coming back off an ACL tear, 41 receptions, 455 yards, no touchdowns. Like, he was good. And I think being a full year removed from the ACL tear next year, he's going to be a top 5 tight end for fantasy. So we want him on our teams. And then, just because Hawkinson was out, they used a lot of Oliver and Munt. But overall, man, the Vikings got a lot out of this team last year with Sam Darnold. And I think if you're a Viking fan, you have to be very excited about what J.J. McCarthy could do with this team, because he has a exciting tool set. He can run the ball. He's got a pretty good arm, pretty good accuracy. And I just think if they got this out of Sam Darnold, who we had all written off, just who knows what the ceiling is for J.J. McCarthy in this team. So, a little bit of question at, the future of the running back, still questions on the future of the quarterback, but I think J.J. McCarthy, he's getting into a good situation here, and we're going to like to see him develop and grow. So Vikings, fun season. They don't have too much to worry about in terms of fixing this offense. We just need to see some opportunities here for J.J. McCarthy and for him to get back healthy and have everything go well with his recovery. So there you have it, the NFC North. I will be finishing up with the AFC West and the NFC West this week. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for watching. And hey, don't forget to subscribe. We'll see you guys in the next video. Peace. Got me feeling icy.